prior to 1997, some professional colleagues and I had been observing developments and evolution of Nigerian banking system, and we felt that the industry will get to a point where some banks will fall off. And we decided to grow expertise and skills that will help us take advantage of that kind of opportunity if it came up. And just like some people say, it's more like we saw it ahead of time. And it did happen. And when it happened, we saw the NDIC then in Nigeria. They wanted to liquidate over 22 banks. And some friends again and I felt that it was time to practice what we had foreseen and what we were preparing for. And that was how we came together and made a bid for the then Crystal Bank, which we later changed to Standard Trust Bank. And the bid was simple. A lot of depositors had lost a lot of money in banks at the time. And we thought what we owed these depositors was to help them make sure they got their monies back, but over a period of time. So we approached the central bank, we approached NDIC, and we made an offer. We also approached the, in quote, SY shareholders of Standard Trust Bank, of Crystal Bank. Remember, the bank was totally gone, so there was nothing to say they had. But we still approached them and said we would like to take over this bank. And the bank was under NDIC news, and that's what was going to liquidate the banks. And so we made an approach and said, okay, let's hear your plans. And I must commend the central bank and the NDIC at the time, and also the then finance minister, Chief Anthony Ani. And then we approved them, and that was how the journey started. It was not really a journey of us putting so much cash into the bank. It was more of creativity, ingenuity, ideas, saying, what some people call debt equity swap. So you have depositors are owed by this bank. We want to assume the debt. And so let the depositors be that we are the ones owing them and not the bank. And so we converted what the depositors had in the bank at the time to equity, and we paid the depositors off over a period of time. A few of them were interested, and they decided to invest in the bank. Majority were not interested, they just wanted out. And even at that, we also got some of them to say, okay, interest forbearance, because they were more interested in getting their principal back. And so that was how the journey started in 1997, and I got appointed the pioneer CEO of the new in quote bank. And then the journey since 1997 has been one thing or the other. And I'm happy that many years down the line, we look back and we're happy that we're audacious and bold to make that move at the time. We're also happy that we had regulators, policymakers who gave us the opportunity, who listened to us, to our ideas. But I recall our first application to the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time, they said the then Director of Supervision, Mr. Ogunle, is still alive. Is one of my mentors today. He said, this is a spurious and bogus offer. Mr. Ogunle was a no-nonsense man. He went on later to become the MD of NDIC for Banking Supervision Department. They turned it down, but we insisted. That's why today in UBA, perseverance, resilience is a core virtue, a core attribute, a core value of ours, because we applied that early on in this journey. So that's how it all started. Going to university, I just thought I wanted to be a businessman because my mom's brother, my mom and his brother were just two of them. So my uncle was a businessman, in Nigeria, and was quite successful at the time. And I was influenced. I thought he was very rich, and also I wanted to be a businessman, but not knowing whether, just a businessman, you know what I mean? Because he was described then as a businessman. And but in the university, that was why I read economics, just to see. But in university, I got more enlightened because I knew more how things operated. And the first degree, I would say, I just wanted a good job that would give me the start. But when I came to do my master's at Unilag, being in Urban or Unilag, a lot happening at the time. And that was the era of new generation banks, a lot happening. Our friends, in banking, our friends, some got jobs in some banks. And so that was all of us who were doing masters at the time. I did masters in economics. Who were doing masters at the time, we just became interested and fascinated. We were interested in working in a bank. New generation bank, not old generation bank, not. And so that was how it all started. And we started applying for jobs in our banks. And I got, yes, at the master's level, it was clear I wanted to work in a bank. And yes, that was how it started. As in then, Santana was a posh car. So they oppressed us in school, I must say. And then we too wanted to become the big boys in future with the brochures, suspenders, white shirt, dark suits, etc. And so whilst working at the bank where I started, I had a very rapid career progression growth. Within 12 months, I was appointed after postgraduate school. I was appointed a branch manager. And so that gave me the opportunity. As a branch manager then, you were a mini CEO. And so I learned very quickly at a very early, I was 26, 27 then. I learned quite a lot. And then that was how we started looking at the banking sector, some friends and I. This sector was growing at a very fast pace, and we didn't think the manpower was there to support the growth of the sector, and that there will be crisis in future. And so let's position ourselves to take advantage of the crisis, and which is what later happened. And then at the time, as it happened, we immediately, saw this Crystal Bank opportunity, approached them, and they agreed. And we just said to ourselves, we must succeed. We must make a generational statement. We need to make this work. We started about 100 of us, and the current GMD of UBA, Kennedy Uzoka, was also part of the team that started the STB. Was there from day one. We went to Gere, we retreated, we strategized, we came up with what we call the 3-tier strategic intent. Tier 1, to turn around the distressed bank and make it viable. Tier 2, to make this distressed bank become one of the top 10 banks in Nigeria in a market that had over 120 banks. And Tier 3, to become one of the top 10 banks in Nigeria. And we put time frames for this. First one time frame was 3 years, 0 to 3. Second one was about to 7 years, and the third one was 7 to 10 years. That 10 years, year 10, we want to be one of the top 3 banks in Nigeria. And so this was it. This was what drove us. Every one of us, pioneers, one knew that, and all the staff who came on board subsequently, they knew this. And that was how it all started. So we turned around this bank. That gave us, put spring on our souls, and we were ready to bounce more because we saw the first intent had been accomplished. Then second intent to become the top 5, 10 banks, we became one of the top 5 banks. Standard Trust Bank then, it was more the top 3 banks, UBA, First Bank, Union Bank, Zenith, Guarantee. In fact, Standard Trust was 5th before even others. And then we said, okay, so this is achievable. Then let's re-strategize for the 3rd-tier goal, which was to become one of the top 3 banks. And that was how, from ashes of Crystal Bank to Standard Trust Bank, from Standard Trust Bank to United Bank for Africa. Before year 10, this is our 3rd-tier strategic intent, which was to become one of the top 3 banks in the country. We achieved that. We achieved that through the combination of Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa, combination, equity combination, human capital combination, so everything together, and then we created today's UBA. It was quite an interesting and exciting moment for all of us who felt completely accomplished, because recall, when we started, it was a mission to show that this generation of Nigerians and of Africans can make a difference. And that was how it all started. And when we got to United Bank for Africa, the merger was tough, integrating the big old 70-year-old bank with the young Standard Trust Bank, bringing them together and making sure that we retain the agility of Standard Trust Bank in a big institution like UBA. It was not easy, but we thank God for everyone who was on board and were able to make it happen. And having accomplished our 30-year strategic intent, the next thing was, what next? And we said we wanted to become the Pan-African Bank. And so from, again, ashes of Crystal Bank, Standard Trust Bank, United Bank for Africa, where we had become the largest financial services group in Nigeria at the time, so through the merger that we orchestrated, which again was the largest financial services combination or merger in Sub-Saharan Africa at the time and to date in terms of size. And so in 2005, when this happened, we re-strategized again. At the time, we worked with McKinsey. First time we worked on our own, now we work with McKinsey. And said, how do we become the leading financial services group in Africa? And so we came up again with our 3-tier strategic intent for the new UBA. Tier 1 being solidifying our leadership in Nigeria, Tier 2 becoming a Pan-African bank, and Tier 3 having global presence in key financial centers of the world. Again, we put time frames to it. In 2007, we branched out Ghana, Cameroon, I think, and other countries. Today, I'm happy to say that UBA operates in 20 countries in Africa, Nigeria plus 19 others, from zero at merger of 2005. So that intent of growing Pan-African Bank, we have one on course. Are we the leading Pan-African bank yet? Not immediately, but we're one of the top 3 in Africa at this time. And then in the global arena, UBA is by far #1 African bank, all of Africa. African bank, we're the only African bank that operates in the United States of America with a deposit-taking license, all of US. We have UBA UK, we have UBA in Paris, our rep office, and just recently we got our proven principle to operate in Dubai. So you can see that from New York, London, Paris, and Dubai now, we're dotting the lines, crossing them, and making sure that we are able to improve our capacity and capability to serve African businesses across the globe and to serve Africans in diaspora and to also serve those who want to do business in Africa, to also bring capital into Africa. So looking back, the journey that started 1997 has come to a position where all of us who were part of it and those who joined later and those who are still there today, feel accomplished, but the journey is still beginning because it's a journey in eternity. The merger of Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa was quite a significant one in so many ways. First is consummating the deal. Consummating the deal was not easy. We had a retreat at Standard Trust Bank because we felt we had accomplished our first 2 strategic intents, and the third one we needed to embark on to keep in line with our 10-year plan. And so we had this retreat in somewhere Lekki, Hotel Bellissimo, and then we had different teams. One team was Team UBA, and that was Team First Bank, and that was Team Union Bank, and the fourth was Team ETI, EcoBank, and ETI, and Eco International Bank, ECOWAS International Bank, and then Standard Trust Bank. So these 4 groups, we had breakout sessions, they all left, and spent 1 day each discussing for UBA and the Standard Trust to merge, how do we go about it?